Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this SCVO webinar on the Young Person's Guarantee. I'm going to just say a very big welcome to everyone that's joined us today. We've got lots of people from the voluntary sector. We've also got some partners from the public sector joining us today, and hopefully this will be a good session and quite interactive. I'm Anna Fowley, I'm the Chief Exec of SCVO, and I'm just going to start with a few housekeeping points. So we are recording this session today. It will be available on the SCVO website immediately after the event for you to watch again and enjoy, but more importantly to share with colleagues who haven't been able to be here. This is the Zoom webinar format. If you're not familiar with that, that means you only see the panelists, so you'll see the speakers, but that doesn't mean to say that you can't contribute. Please, if you have specific questions that you would like answered, put them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you would like to make a point or just have some general chat, put it in the chat bar, and that's always useful for us to see and for all the participants to see what you're thinking. But as I would reiterate, if you have specific questions, please put them in the Q&A function. It's much easier to keep track of that way. As you'll know, the purpose of this session is to look at the Young Person's Guarantee, and the timing is because this is the start of the third sector themed week around the Young Person's Guarantee. And we will, of course, be talking about that in its widest sense, but we'll also be doing a bit of a focus on Community Jobs Scotland and on some of the other support that's available to you. We are joined today by our colleague David Stewart, who is from the from the Union for Supported Employers. But we, unfortunately, the Cabinet Secretary hasn't been able to be with us, but we are joined instead by Gavin Gray, who is the Deputy Director in Scottish Government, who leads on the Young Person's Guarantee. So very grateful to Gavin for joining us. I'm just going to stick with, to start us off, with a quick poll. My colleague will hopefully put up on the screen now, just to get an idea of where we are with the audience. So have you heard of Community Jobs Scotland before now? You've got three options there you can see on your screen. If you vote now, we'll see what that looks like, and we'll have a follow-up poll at the end. If you have got experience of CJS, it would be really good if you could put your experience in the chat, and we can have a look and share that. So, yeah, the majority of people have had experience of using the scheme. That's fabulous. And some people have heard of it but haven't been involved. Hopefully we'll encourage you to get involved in future. And welcome to those of you for whom this is completely new. So I'm going to hand over now to Gavin, who's, as I said, from Scottish Government, who's going to ably replace Fiona Hislop today and share with us some of the thoughts from Scottish Government on the Young Person's Guarantee. Thanks, Gavin.
Okay, thanks Anna, and thanks for the introduction. So sorry, I've had to change devices, so hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Yeah, so I should begin by apologising again that the Cabinet Secretary's been unable to make it. I think everyone will appreciate it's a really busy time at the moment as we're moving towards a pre-election period, and an unavoidable clash came up in our diary. But I will try and do justice to the speaking note we had laid out, and I know there'll be an opportunity for a couple of questions later. But I should say to start, I'm delighted to be able to be here or to attend this webinar, to take our place. It's really great to see so many people signed up to this today. It really sort of speaks to how important the Young Person's Guarantee is to all of us, and especially to those of you in the third sector. I think what I'm planning to do through this session is just quickly set out some of the progress that's been made to support young people who are, we all know are facing a number of challenges in these really difficult times, and looking forward to highlight the work of the sector through this week, because some of you might be aware this is part of our overall campaign this year to really try and increase the promotion of the young person's guarantee. So we've had weeks already focusing on apprenticeships, on work in colleges, and last week around the local partnerships. So we're really keen to build on that and show the engagement with the third sector. So as I think we all appreciate, the pandemic's created unprecedented challenges for young people, and how they go about their daily lives. And we know that they've been the hardest hit economically, because of the impacts of the virus. The impact of the pandemic really varies across a number of different parts of the economy. And we can see the evidence that it's exacerbating inequalities that have existed in areas of the labour market for some time. And you really see that increased impact on those that are on low incomes and in insecure contracts, which have been more prevalent amongst young people. Like I say, have been the worst affected. So there's a real challenge. Our challenge as government, and the First Minister and Ms Hislop have been clear about this, is that our collective challenge is to ensure that the legacy of this pandemic isn't a scarring one for young people. The third sector has made, and it will continue to make, really significant contribution to the wider economy as we begin to reopen, and we see key sectors moving towards recovery. We see the important contribution you all make to the wellbeing economy, and the profit being recycled into communities, social and capital being increased by delivery of third sector services. And we are, since the start of this, I think we've been really clear on the role that the sector's played in supporting the implementation of and the delivery of the guarantee, and just overall in terms of the day-to-day work you do in supporting young people. You've got that expertise in building relationships with vulnerable young people, providing the individual support and training that they need to try and help those to help them achieve positive outcomes, and particularly that support for those who are facing the greatest number of barriers to employment. And I know a lot of you will have had to find innovative new ways of engaging with young people during the restrictions, when that face-to-face contact's been impossible. And really, across government, we recognise the tireless efforts that have been put in to try and adapt to these circumstances and to make that work, and to continue to give young people the support they need. And I can assure you today that the Scottish Government is really committed to continuing that support to help young people, both through our work on the guarantee, but also more widely. When we talk about the guarantee, the ambition that's been set out, and this was very clear in a lot of the work that Sandy Begbie did in shaping the blueprint for the guarantee, but it's very simply about trying to connect young people to employment opportunities. I think we're in a fortunate place in Scotland that we've had a strong infrastructure in place that means that we can, we've strong foundations to build on from all this, with a very strong track record in supporting youth employment over the last few years, particularly through developing the young workforce and a lot of the work that's been put in place around all of that. And, so we've shown our commitment to that with the investments of 60 million last year, another 70 million through the budget for next year. It's really, we've decided not just to create new programs or structures, but to invest as much as we can through those frameworks and the structures that are already there. Particularly, I think, that focus on funding through local partnerships. So, last year we allocated 30 million to local partnerships, and and a big part of that was allowing that flexibility for local partnerships to work with partners to understand what's needed for the young people in their locality, for local businesses, and to adapt to that. And particularly given the amount of uncertainty across the labour market, we saw that as being really important, and that will be a feature of what we do next year as well. We have specifically increased funding in some of the programmes in the third sector. So our Future Now and Discovering Your Potential in particular, which are obviously well established, and really dealing with those most vulnerable young people. So the additional investment we've put in them will help us to support even more people, giving them the support they need to build their confidence and build the skills that employers requirement. I think we're also, one of the other elements of the guarantee that we've been looking to begin to promote more is the importance of volunteering. So we've provided £100,000 to Project Scotland to support the creation of additional volunteering opportunities. we know that that brings enormous benefits, not only to the beneficiaries, but within communities, to volunteers themselves. It increases the social civil participation, it empowers communities, and it can reduce loneliness and isolation. So it's we know it's got a big part to play. Set out properly, but it is part of these structured pathways to support young people. So it's really critical to our ambition of creating that fairer, more prosperous country with equality of opportunity for all, where everyone's got the chance to participate. And we know that it's a really positive. It can be a really positive gateway to employment. And as important as all that investment is, though, in the activity we're supporting, it's also worth saying that the guarantee is also really building in that desire that we've been working on to try and align services so that we're building support more around the needs of young people. So we're working in partnership to try and make sure we're delivering that no wrong door approach, that we're building on the work through No One Left Behind, on that Scottish approach to employability that focuses on the needs of the individual, that's person-centred, more flexible and responsive to the changing labour market, that tackles inequalities and grows in that inclusive growth for the economy, which is what we need as we're shaping our collective response, both in terms of the economy and in terms of the well-being of the country. So, since the guarantee formally launched in November last year, we've started in the last few months, we've provided additional funding for around 18,000 opportunities to support young people. Many of those are through employment places, but what we're looking for that to do is, there's investment in that through the local partnerships and in the third sector through colleges as well. We're trying to make sure there's a range of different opportunities for people at different levels so that young people can access the support they need. And I know that many of you will utilise Kickstart placements to help with your support, to help with that, which is great, because we're looking and we're working closely with DWP to make sure that the Kickstart programme can align with the young person's guarantee so that we can create longer term placements for people and move them from Kickstart onto other placements, whether that's apprenticeships or anything else, to really wrap around and provide that additionality to what the DWP offer is. And it's important for everybody that these things work together in tandem. We're also doing a lot of work with employers to make sure employers in every sector can sign up and support young people and make that commitment. From the conversations that we've had and I know ministers have had with businesses across all Scotland, it's clear that a lot of employers want to stand behind this guarantee. They see the importance of it. They've already got that long-standing commitment to young people, and we've developed 5 Asks of employers, which let employers demonstrate that in a way that that fits their circumstances. We're aware that a lot of different employers in different sectors are in very different circumstances. So rather than us dictating what we think they should do, we're working with them to establish what they're able to do now and what they might look to commit to doing in the future. And I know that many of you around, on the webinar and on the call will have signed up to the guarantee or will be thinking about doing so. So I really thank you for that. It's really important. I mean, I think one of the themes that we've had in this since we started, very early on from Young Scot, was that young people need to know that we've got their back through this difficult time. And I think, I'd encourage you to promote that message. So, if your organisations haven't signed up, then get in touch with us. We can talk through how we can do that, how you can set out those asks. But please encourage others to do that as well. Because we want to create that positive movement that ensures everyone is working together and to play their part. As part of that as well, that partnership approach, we've been working together with local government to develop a national employer recruitment incentive framework. So that would be a really big part, I think, of the support for next year, looking at trying to create minimum standards for those recruitment incentives, which embed things we want to see around fair work principles and a bit more of a consistent standard across what we're doing across the country in recruitment incentives. And that support's been provided through the local partnerships, and it will hopefully enable employers to create more jobs, including apprenticeships, and with a particular focus on supporting those from those that are facing those additional barriers. Now, obviously, Anna said that, you know, at the start, there's a specific focus on CGS, and, you know, we've obviously supported the creation of opportunities for young people through CGS for over 10 years now. And I know that many of you, and I can see just as I'm talking, I can see that a few of the mentions coming up on the chats, you know, you'll see a lot of benefits by bringing young people into your organisations through CGS. It's absolutely played a critical role. And, you know, we want to continue to realise those benefits. Now, you know, as many of you will know, we're looking at the wider reform of the employability system about how we integrate in align support, and we're continuing to engage with SCPO and others in the sector around that. But I mean, that's very much around how we streamline and allocate the funding rather than any sort of commentary. You know, like I say, you know, CGS has been and will continue to play an important role in terms of how we support and how we're setting out our ambitions from No One Left Behind. You know, we need everyone involved to be working more closely together to simplify the current landscape so that we can deliver better outcomes for young people looking to access work, but also to make it easier for for employers to engage and be able to, you know, for employers to be able to engage with the system to make sure that they can get young people into the opportunities that they want to create, and we'll continue to do that in an approach where we're working in partnership nationally, regionally, locally. You know, taking that collective leadership and collaboration to create an employability system that supports more people, and like I say, you know, particularly gets that support to those that are facing the multiple barriers and who really need to, you know, those more complex interventions. So to conclude, I mean, I hope today, you know, the session will, you know, both give us a good chance to discuss what the implications are for the sector, how they can engage, and hopefully encourage more of you to come on board and support the guarantee. You know, I think we all appreciate the freshness and the energy that young people can bring to organisations. And again, you know, one of the key things in putting in promoting the guarantees, it's not just about asking employers to do this because we think, you know, it's just, you know, it's a charitable thing or good for society. You know, young people have a very positive impact on businesses, and we, like I say again, I mean, I know a lot of employers recognise that and they will follow through that commitment. But they, you know, we can see the impact that the pandemic's having in young people. We know the long-term scarring effects it can have if we don't get measures in place. So, you know, we want to get we don't want people, even those who are on furlough, who may be protected from unemployment at the moment, we don't want them to lose out in the work experience that will, you know, support them in that early job progression. So we, you know, by collectively working together, we can ensure that young people know that we're standing behind them, that we're, you know, we'll put a range of opportunities in place that will give them the support and the help they need. And like I say, we want to work closely in partnership with the third sector because we know you're well placed to deliver for young people and support them into employment and you know, both to put them into other sectors, but also as a sector employing people yourself. I know we share the ambitions in all of this. And just to finish, I mean, like I say again, you know, really keen to continue to work closely on this over the coming years.
Thank you, Gavin. That was really comprehensive. Thank you very much. And I think we do absolutely share that ambition, don't we, to really do the best we can for young people to avoid that long-term scarring effect that we know comes from these economic downturns, and also to really make sure that the young people who are furthest from the labour market and already were furthest from the labour market don't get left further behind as we see other people coming into the employment market who are maybe more immediately able to take up jobs. So we had a few questions around different types of provision and the differences between different types of provision. So rather than attempt to answer that, I'm going to ask my colleague Lorna, who's going to address you anyway, to speak on that. Lorna is our Head of Service Delivery and Improvement at SCVO, which does include the Community Jobs Scotland team. So I'm going to ask Lorna to speak to us now about the role, the very valuable role that the sector plays, the voluntary sector plays in employing young people. Lorna.
Thank you, Anna. Francis is going to bring up just 3 slides in the background here, so I'll let that happen. Give me a second. So lovely to see the comments coming through on the chat, and lovely to see you all here today. So, yeah, so I'm the head of service delivery at SCBO, and I'm responsible for Good Moves, which is our recruitment and jobs advertising service, our voluntary sector payroll service, and also Community Jobs Scotland and Kickstart. So I'll tell you a bit more about that in relation to the Young Person's Guarantee. So before I get into any more detail about the Young Person's Guarantee and employability provision, I just first wanted to recognise the scale and breadth of the voluntary sector as an employer. And some of these numbers are pretty impressive. So the Scottish voluntary sector encompasses an estimated 40,000 plus organisations, from grassroots community groups and village hall committees to more than 6,000 social enterprises, 25,000 registered charities and over 100 credit unions. Together, they employ over 100,000 paid staff, work with over 1.4 million volunteers, and have a combined annual turnover that reached over 6 billion in 2018. So that's why we're vital really in supporting the ambition of the Young Person's Guarantee, both in terms of employability provision and support, but also crucially through creating jobs for young people. It won't be news to folk on the call here that young people are one of the hardest groups hit as a result of the pandemic. The latest stats from the Office for National Statistics show that the percentage of all young people aged 16 to 24 years in the UK who were not in education, employment or training from October to December last year was estimated at 11.6% and is increasing. There was an estimated 797,000 young people in the UK in this position, and this had increased by 39,000 compared with the quarter before, from July to September, and the largest increase since 2011. And more locally, the IPPR suggests that youth unemployment in Scotland could reach as much as 100,000. And a report published recently by Inspiring Scotland suggests that there could be as many as 35,000 young people who are at risk of falling through the gaps, many of whom were already unemployed pre-COVID. This cohort were struggling to access and sustain employment even when opportunities existed due to the individual barriers that they faced. This includes young people with addictions, with caring responsibilities, learning disabilities, people with convictions or fragile housing. And this cohort will be at an even greater disadvantage now that opportunities are fewer and competition is greater. Hospitality, retail and service industries, which are the hardest hit, would typically provide the majority of entry-level jobs for this group of young people. So these are the young people, as Gavin said, at the greatest risk of scarring that can result in a lifetime of poverty and periods of unemployment at great social and economic cost. To put simply, these are the young people the voluntary sector is best placed to support. So Gavin's already told us that there's a commitment that within the next 2 years, every 16 to 24-year-old through the Young Person's Guarantee should be in paid employment for a period of 12 to 24 months, enrolled in education, actively involved in an apprenticeship or training programme, or engaged on a formal volunteering or supported activity programme. This is an ambitious ask and we all need to sign up to make it happen. So yes, there was a commitment of initial 60 million, as Gavin said, last year, and 70 million funding this year for the Young Person's Guarantee. It has been allocated to local partnerships via local authorities, to developing the young workforce, to colleges, to apprenticeships, and enhancing some existing third sector opportunities for young people. Gavin covered those, so I'm not going to repeat those, but we can post information in the chat about those. SCBO and local authorities have also been asked to act as lead delivery partners on one of the work streams of the Young Person's Guarantee, and this is to support young people furthest away from the labour market. So at the moment, the funding's been allocated to local authorities to support this provision, which will be tailored to meet local needs. And the expectation is that third sector will deliver some of this support. So to find out more about what's happening in your local area, we suggest that you contact your local authority employability lead. And again, I'll pop a link in the chat shortly to their contact details. The guarantee is employer-led. It's an opportunities provided by the guarantee should aspire to this clear commitment characterised by fair work. Advancing equality, inclusion and working to eliminate discrimination will also be central to the guarantee to ensure that no one is left behind. The framework's also been designed to enable employers from all sectors, small, medium, large, to consider how they can support the young person's guarantee. And that's built around 5 areas. Those 5 areas are to prepare young people for the world of work, to help all young people achieve their potential, to invest in a skilled workforce, to create jobs, volunteering and training opportunities, and lastly, to create an inclusive and fair workplace. So if you want to sign up to this commitment and make the pledge, there is now a pro forma available to do so, and SCVO, along with many other third sector organisations, will be doing this as part of this week's third sector themed week. So moving on, my colleagues will cover a bit more detail on CGS shortly, but Community Jobs Scotland, I think, is a great way of fulfilling this ambition as set out by the Young Person's Guarantee, and also aligning with No One Left Behind, which is the Scottish Government's policy, to provide a flexible and person-centred approach to the employability journey. CGS is a national programme, but it covers every local authority in Scotland, working directly with local employers who know their local needs. It provides real jobs for those furthest from the labour market, and it also provides support for employers to help participants to overcome employment barriers. Lastly, CGS makes an explicit impact in communities. It helps strengthen the sector and it promotes the sector as a meaningful career choice. It's community focused and every job must have a community benefit. And young people understand and they do value the contribution that they make to social capital in this way. We actively seek third sector employers who are best placed to work with employees who need additional support, and this results in better outcomes for young people. The young people that we work with, they want to grow, they want to thrive, they want to make a positive contribution. And we do believe that the needs of these young people must be put first, and we'll continue to focus our efforts on this as we launch the next phase of CGS Local. We also want to ensure that there's better visibility of opportunities and ways to engage through sessions like today in what's becoming what feels like an increasingly complex landscape. So in a year's time, CGS funding will transition to local partnerships as part of No One Left Behind. So we really want to ensure continuity of support and high quality provision for those most vulnerable going forward. We do hope the guarantee will meet these needs and that employers are able to offer a quality and enriching experience, and that young people are supported to make the most of the opportunities on offer. And we believe the third sector is doing this in a unique way. So although our session focuses today on CGS, I also wanted to highlight Kickstart, and this was a question that came up in the chat. Kickstart is the UK government scheme to support young people into paid employment, and it is a different scheme to CGS, but it's also an opportunity we can support as a gateway organisation. I'll pop a link in the chat again, but very simply, Kickstart is UK government, CGS Scottish government funding. Kickstart, excuse my dog barking, Kickstart is employers can employ directly to DWP, or they can employ through a gateway organisation, and SCVO is a gateway organisation. Community Jobs Scotland, as an employer, you can only apply to through SCVO. The target age range for Kickstart is 16 to 24, and for CGS it's 16 to 29. In terms of funded hours, Kickstart funds 25 hours a week. Employers can top this up to full time if they wish. Community Jobs Scotland is also 25 hours a week, but also we can be flexible, and we do offer 16 hours a week for those young people who would benefit more from working shorter hours, depending on the young person really. And again, the employer can top up to full time. In terms of eligibility, Brian shortly will cover CGS in more detail, but for Kickstart, any unemployed young person on universal credit is eligible. It's a bit more restrictive with Community Jobs Scotland. And the target groups are for CGS are those furthest from the labour market, and in Kickstart it's unemployed, but people that could be ready to start a job straight away. Kickstart, the length of post is 6 months, and in CGS, it used to be up to a year. It's variable. We'll describe this shortly, but it will be a variable amount between 6 and 12 months, hopefully. And Kickstart posts are available now or could be applied for now, and CGS will be from April, 1st of April onwards. The closing date at the moment for Kickstart is December 2021, although I am aware there's potential extensions being requested. And again, Brian will cover CGS shortly. In Kickstart, it's the national minimum wage that gets paid, and in Community Jobs Scotland, there is a living wage fund available to top up to living wage. Both schemes provide some wraparound support for the young people and for the employers, but different types of support. And both schemes through SCVO will allow an account manager to support you through the process. I'll stop now talking about those two schemes because we're going to cover a bit more later. But one more thing I do want to cover just before I finish up is a forum of interest potentially for everybody, and that is the Third Sector Employability Forum. So SCVO, along with TCEF, is representing the voluntary sector on a number of working groups related to the Young Person's Guarantee and No One Left Behind. So if you're a voluntary organisation interested in influencing the direction of travel in employability, we'd encourage you to join the TCEF forum if you haven't already. And again, I'll pop a link in the chat to join. It's a free community of interest which aims to provide a platform and collective voice for voluntary sector organisations in Scotland. So I'm just going to end to say, please do help us spread the word this week during the Third Sector themed week. We'd love if you could help the Third Sector come together, share each other's messaging, retweet, etc., and help promote the sector's role as an employer across different social channels during this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorna. I appreciate that. And I see there's been lots of good things coming in on the chat. We're about to go on to hear from David Stewart from SUS, but I see there's a couple of questions in the question and answer that this is probably the right time to answer them now rather than leave them there. So Michael, I see you've indicated you would like to answer them. Could you come in and briefly answer the questions, the two questions that are there from Kate and from Stephen?
Yeah, Kate, regarding people that have previously been on Community Jobs Scotland, we are looking at the options to try and re-engage with them. It is very difficult to continue the revolving door scenario, but it is something we're looking at, and it's something that's been discussed within our team, and I believe with Scottish Government as well. Kickstart, again, a young person may have been on Community Jobs Scotland, and that then would be up to the work coach to decide if they felt. So it would be the work coach at DWP, if they had a young person that was on universal credit, that would make that referral. So it would be at their discretion if they felt that that was best route for a young person. Unfortunately, we don't have any control over the referral process for Kickstart. But again, if the young person has completed Community Jobs Scotland and returns to DWP, their work coach may decide that that's a good option for them.
Michael, what about the question from Stephen about the travel allowance and the?
Yes, Stephen. Somehow I felt we might be getting that question from yourself. We have looked at, and we do offer support through our training fund, where a young person maybe does have considerable travel costs that we can support through the training fund, where the training request would come into us, and we would look at using the flexible fund there. But I would also suggest that if any young person is starting Community Jobs Scotland and travel is going to be an issue for them, that if they're referred through DWP, that they speak to their work coach. The work coach has got access to a discretion fund, and that can cover subsidised rail travel and subsidised bus travel for a young person. So the first port of call is when you're interviewing a young person and you realise there may be difficulties in travel costs, refer back to the work coach at DWP, who has got a pot of funding there available to assist.
Thank you very much. That's great. So now we're going to move on to hear from David Stewart, who is from the Scottish Union of Supported Employment, and he is going to talk to us specifically about support that is available for employing people with disabilities. David.
Great, thanks for that. Listen, I think the, how did I just start this? So, as I said, my name is David Stewart. I'm the Public Social Partnership Project Manager for the Scottish Union of Supported Employment. And I've been reading the chat throughout the presentations earlier today, and having previously used Community Jobs Scotland in my last role at Falkirk Foundation, I know how successful and how beneficial it is, and to see a number of other organisations saying the same thing in the chat is really, really pleasing. I guess my ask today is then, how can we consider that if we're providing opportunities for young people just now, can we extend that into young disabled people? And on that, I'm going to talk about briefly the benefits of employing disabled people and how organisations can also benefit in return. So first of all, this list is by no means exhaustive, but it gives you an idea of some of the things that we are looking to promote through the PSP over the next 12 months. Now, I think the biggest thing is the main message that we are putting out is that we still want employers to get the best person for the job. This isn't about recruiting a disabled person because it's a nice thing to do or you'll feel good about yourself. This is about the best person for the job. But we believe that by making small changes or improvements to how you design jobs, how you advertise jobs, how you basically interview for jobs, will give you an increased talent pool to choose from that will ultimately introduce additional skills that you might be missing just now. Employing disabled people will improve the corporate culture of your organisation and increase the morale of your team and everybody associated with your organisation. My previous job at Falkirk Foundation, I've been working in employability and helping and supporting people from a range of backgrounds and communities to make positive differences to their own lives and to increase their aspirations, their motivations, and ultimately the opportunities that they're going to experience. And there's nothing better, as you all know, than working for an organisation that does that, that really focuses on developing people, watching people grow, watching people move on, and watching people basically fulfill their potential. You want to work for an organisation that does that, and this is another way that you can increase that morale and that feeling amongst your team. One of the biggest things we're looking to do over the next 12, 13 months is really addressing the myths and the preconceived ideas that are associated with employing disabled people. And here are just some of them. Recent research has highlighted that 12% of employers in the focus group worried that disabled people were more likely to take time off work through sickness and ill health. And actually that's proven to be incorrect. And the other way is true, that your sickness levels will be reduced by employing disabled people. There is I'm sure a lot of people will agree here, whether you're working in social enterprise, whether you're looking at employing disabled people, but there's a thought process out there that you need to reduce your levels of expectation or your productivity levels because, you know, if you engage with a social enterprise or if you employ disabled people, and that's just rubbish. You know, we again, it's been proven that your productivity will at least remain the same, if not improve. And again, 84% of employers in this research reported that disabled people did make a valuable contribution to their workplace. The next one, we look at employing disabled people will mean that you have a loyal workforce and staff that don't want to leave your organisation. Now, this doesn't mean that disabled people will complete jobs that nobody else completes. What this means is that if you are an inclusive employer, you look after your staff, you support them appropriately, then why would they want to leave? Why would they want to go somewhere else that there's a good chance they won't receive that level of support? So you will have a loyal workforce that's committed and dedicated to you. We also know as part of the Scottish Government's target of halving the disability employment gap, that figure itself means probably about 130,000 disabled people moving into employment. But it doesn't just need to be new jobs. There are also across the UK 300,000 disabled people that fall out of employment every year. And actually, to achieving the target of halving the disability employment gap will go some way towards introducing new opportunities, but also keeping disabled people in the jobs that they're currently in. And if we can do that, and as an employer, if you can address that employment churn, then that will save you money on advertising and training and recruitment. We move on to reasonable adjustments. Again, survey piece here, 31% of employers surveyed said that the cost of making reasonable adjustments was a barrier to employing disabled people. Only 45% actually understood clearly what it meant to implement reasonable adjustments. Okay, now there is support available. We have something, as you all know, called Access to Work, which is the biggest kept secret in the UK. Only 25% of employers surveyed knew what Access to Work was and understood the help that was available. But if you look at across the UK, there's 7.7 million people that declared a disability. That's of working age. There's a working age population, nearly 8 million people in the UK declared a disability, but there were only 32,000 applications the year before that were processed through Access to Work. Well, I'm not saying that every disabled person needs access to work, but out of 8 million, it's going to be more than 32,000. Employers need to be aware that this is available to them, and actually the number of reasonable adjustments that will be required are probably just small changes or enhancements that are needed. Employing disabled people will help you as an organisation and an individual become a diversity champion. Okay, 83% of disabled people acquire their disability whilst in work. So that's not in the workplace, but actually whilst working. Whilst in work, 83% acquire their disability. So this is something that, considering the current pandemic that we're in, considering the ageing population and the ageing workforce that we have, this is going to become more and more apparent for employers. So what are we going to do when we have a really productive, proactive, valued member of our team that perhaps acquires a disability or a long-term health condition in the future? We're going to find a way, we're going to need to support that, we're going to need to deal with that, because we don't want to lose that talent and that knowledge from our workforce. The current pandemic also has highlighted, if anything, that we need new ways of working. This is a new way of living. You've all heard that we're all fed up with the same sayings, but disabled people bring ideal skills and a new way of looking at things to contribute to a new way of working. Previous fears about, reasonable adjustments and ramps and lifts and, whatever that may be, are taken away because we can work from home. And actually, a disabled person's home is the best workspace for them. But it's not to say that every disabled person can't access the workplace. There is a number of invisible disabilities. There are probably a number of people working for you just now that have a disability but haven't declared it. So this creating a diverse workforce that then reflects the diverse customers and communities that you serve goes a long way to increasing the perception that customers have of your organisation. And this also highlights another advantage of the Purple Pound. For those that don't know, the Purple Pound is the spending power of disabled households. So that is a household that has at least one disabled person in it. And at this moment in time, there are 14 million disabled people in the UK with a combined spending power of £274 billion, and they are loyal to disability-friendly organisations. It's estimated that businesses lose approximately £2 million a month by ignoring disabled people's needs. It's also highlighted that 73% of potential disability customers experience barriers in more than a quarter of the websites they visit. And on average per head, the online spending power of disabled people is estimated at £16 billion. It's finally mentioned that 75% of disabled people and families have walked away from a UK business due to poor accessibility or customer service. So the question now at the start might have been, the fear is I can't afford to employ a disabled people. But with stats like that, I would actually ask, can you afford not to employ disabled employees? Finally then, just about the PSP project and how we can help employers to tap into this and to receive those benefits by employing disabled people. Basically, to summarise this, the PSP project is a public social partnership project with 39 partners, including the Scottish Government, of which SUS are the lead partner. And this is an ambition to convey and communicate the benefits of employing disabled people by increasing employers' confidence, awareness and capacity to do that. This is 100% about working with employers and supporting employers. We're going to, over the next 13 months, design and implement a variety of innovative best practice models in partnership with employers for employers. The end result is that we will create a centre of excellence, a resource, a one-stop shop, a go-to place for employers to access training, advice, consultancy, support whenever they need it, with all things to do with employing disabled people. We have a conglomerate and a consortium of expert partners who can deliver taster sessions, support, consultancy, advice in this subject, and are valuable members of the PSP. And ultimately, it goes as a partnership with the Scottish Government, aligns to the Scottish Government's Disability Employment Action Plan with an ambition to reduce the disability employment gap. Over the next year, this just highlights some of the things that we are going to offer. This month, we are delivering 150 online taster sessions to over 200 employers in a range of topics with regards to employing disabled people. These are free. The link is on the next slide. You can log on and book a taster session for as many of your employees and your peers as you want to raise your awareness and your understanding of this area. And then the next 5 columns are projects that we have designed that we will be delivering in partnership with 54 employers. And we're still actively recruiting these employers over the next 12 months. Free training, free support, free collaboration, free consultation, everything with a view to improving, evaluating and improving your current existing recruitment methods by implementing new models that will then act as the benchmark and best practice that will be rolled out and promoted and celebrated across the country. And the most important thing, everything's free. Up until March 2022, everything we deliver is free. This is the best time to do this. So finally, by getting involved in one of our projects, you'll become a PSP strategic partner. You will then be able to receive support and services free of charge, expert advice and consultancy free of charge. We will help you demonstrate your commitment to inclusion and diversity by promoting your achievements through the PSP and our 39 partners. You will help us create a centre of excellence for Scotland, which has never been done before in Europe, and you will achieve recognition as a diversity champion. The link is there. That's where we have a number of free sessions that are available during March. I'd be delighted to hear from anybody who wants to take their existing Community Jobs Scotland success on to the next level by perhaps considering how to provide opportunities and receive support to provide opportunities for young disabled people. Thanks very much.
Thank you, David. That was fascinating. Really great bunch of resources there and lots of support available and lots of passion and commitment, as you can hear from Susan, from David and his colleagues. So I'm now going to move us on to a short video that we have. My colleague Francis will bring it up on the screen, which will introduce you to some Community Jobs Scotland employers past and present. Thanks, Francis.
We became a CGS employer at the beginning of the year, where we designed and developed a wild skills traineeship, and we recruited in March for that. The process was really straightforward. We made contact with CGS. We had an idea of what we would like to offer for employees. We wanted to offer a traineeship for people to get experience of working outside and working with nature, and for the conservation sector. So we approached CGS with our idea. We actually sat down face to face and talked about it, which was really nice, and shared our project plan and ideas, and then went from there. Trainees have been fantastic. So we've had 5 trainees, that's 5 extra bodies who've been going out and supporting all our different projects. So the trainees have been gaining experience in the sector with all the different things we do across Scotland, but we've also been getting support from them, they've been supporting our activities, they've been helping volunteers, they've been going out and working with community groups, they've even been interested in supporting developing projects and funding applications as well, which has been great. I would definitely recommend Community Jobs Scotland to other employers. It's been a great experience for us. We've learned so much by having 5 new members of staff, all coming from different areas, different backgrounds, different experiences. We've brought a lot of inspiration, and it's changed the way we think about things, but it's also brought on a lot of extra pair of hands and enthusiasm to the work we do.
I constantly recommend the programme, constantly. You're getting a free hit at employing somebody with support and a training budget. I mean, what's not to like? Even if it doesn't work out, what's not to like? It's an opportunity for that person to do something, get work experience, working in any pressure, and a training structure around them. We would always say make sure you've got the support mechanism in place for the tasks that you need done. Don't just bring a young person in or somebody in and expect them to do it automatically.
The problem you have is when you're a charity, there's certain things that you just can't afford. You know, we can't afford admin, but it's been really good to have Community Jobs Scotland staff in. Most of the people that we've had have all been into jobs, which is really good. From the organisation point of view, it gives us an extra pair of hands. It gives us someone that can meet and greet our clients. You know, we do have some volunteers that do that, but it's a big ask of volunteers. We're quite short on the ground of volunteers, so to have Community Jobs Scotland people there to support the volunteers makes a big difference.
I think the programme's fantastic. I think it's fantastic for the young people involved, for what they get out of it. I think for employers, it's an absolute no-brainer. You know, you've got these amazing, capable people that are willing and able to contribute to growing your business. You know, it's I think you'd have to be daft not to become involved with this.
We've been involved with CGS for about 8 months now. It was a really great interview process. We got to meet lots of different people with lots of different skills, and it gave us a chance to focus on what we wanted as an organisation, what we valued, which was Leah's passion to help people and to kind of really get involved. We launched a few new projects last year, so it's just given us so much more resource to kind of do things, to get to know the participants that we work with. And yeah, Leah's been a great help. She's had some really great ideas, been really keen to just get stuck in, and she's been a great addition to the team.
I've been involved with Community Jobs for must be about 5-6 years, probably more. The work that the Community Jobs does is they come partially ready. They do a lot of work in the background. You know, we see people maturing and becoming good employees, and you can see that they've got some worth, they've got some reason to get out of bed in the morning now. You can see the difference that you make if you just give somebody a job with good terms and conditions, decent pay and a bit of worth in them. Show that support and belief in them.
It's made a huge difference because it means that we have got an extra pair of hands to do the little jobs that don't get done as often as we'd like. You know, it's just really our confidence improved. And not just myself, there's actually a lot of the carers have said, you know, that her confidence seems to have improved. And as I say, recently, I would say over the past month, I've been spending time with her doing the baking, and that's really where she just loves doing it. It's giving people a chance, you know, that maybe have struggled to get into employment before. I personally have been very fortunate because Alison has settled in with the team. It's a good team. They enjoy working with her, she enjoys working with them. So for us, it's been a very, very positive experience.
Thank you very much for that. That was great. I'm going to hand over now to my colleagues Moira and Brian, who are going to speak to us about how you might get a bit more involved in CGS. And after that, we'll hear from a young person who's benefited from the screen. He'll be on film, but he is also in the audience if anyone would like to ask him a question. Moira, I can see you there. Take it away.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Moira Cuthbertson. I'm the CGS manager at SCVO. Community Jobs Scotland, or CGS as you'll hear us all refer to it, it started back in 2011. And it's created over 9,500 jobs across Scotland with voluntary sector employers for young people aged 16 to 29-year-olds who are some of the most disadvantaged in the labour market. And over this coming year, we're aiming to create another 560 of those job opportunities. Now, the purpose of each job or CGS, the purpose of each CGS job is to provide the young person with current work experience, supporting them to develop their work skills and their learning, and to help progress them towards more sustainable job. There is a team at SCVO who are there to support the employer to support their CGS employee through this journey. Now, I'm going to pass you over to one of my colleagues, as Anna had mentioned, Brian McNeary, who will give you a bit more detail on what this involves for each employer.
Thank you, Moira. So first off, we're going to have a look at the criteria to be a CGS employer. So the jobs must be within the voluntary sector. The jobs must be additional. Jobs must also offer community benefit, and they must pay at least the national minimum wage. SCVO promote the living wage, and a funding top-up is available. Jobs must be at least 25 hours a week, but we also have jobs to be offered at 16 hours a week, depending on the employee's situation. Jobs must at least be for 12 months, and the young person becomes an employee of the employing organisation, so they'll be covered by the same policies and procedures as your other staff. Next, we'll look at the funding. So the maximum available for each job will be £11,680 to cover the costs of the wage, employer's NI, support and supervision, induction and on-the-job training, and job search support. If you're paying a Scottish living wage of £9.50 per hour, a top-up is also available, and that taking that funding to £13,366. So next we'll have a wee look at the registration form that you would put in to become an employer. And that's from our live website. So the first section there is employer details. So the full name, including any trading names, your address there, including the local authority, and also the status of your organisation. The next section down includes the charity number or company registration number, and payroll arrangements, and also confirming that you meet requirements for HMRC and have your organisation previously been involved with CGS. The next section down is the living wage. So if you are an employer who's accredited for living wage, you can confirm that there. Or if you're actually intending to be and working towards accreditation, you can also indicate that. The next section is senior contact details. This is the person at your organisation who will be the main contact for the CGS, and they'll receive a login to the job portal, and they'll be the person who will actually submit your job description and who the account managers will be in touch with throughout the processes. The organisation policies and procedures, we also ask that you indicate the last review dates of them. And the next section down is about the actual CGS vacancies. So confirming that you'll be able to comply with a 5-week turnaround to recruit someone, and the CGS vacancies will be located within your organisation. At the very bottom there, the attached support documents refers to, we ask that you upload a copy of your employer's liability insurance certificate showing the renewal date on it, and also a copy of a standard contract of employment that you would give someone, just a standard contract, so we can see all the details are correct on that. So finally, we'll have a wee look at the job description form. And again, the the job description form is a link that is sent to the CGS contact at your employer. And when they get that through, this is the panel that they see. So at the very top there, you have the job title, the job occupation sector, the address and location of the job, the total hours, and the shifts or rota work pattern, and also the hourly rate of pay that you're looking to pay the person. The job description extract is just a shorter extract of the description which appears on our job site. And then you have the full job description under that. Also the personal spec, again, if you think along the lines that the people applying for the CGS funding may not have experience or training, so keep that in mind for the personal spec. And below that, confirming, do they need a PVG disclosure check, so that we know there may be a delay in the recruitment with that. The supervisor details is the contact for the job. When we have paperwork for when the person's leaving, we send a leaver details form, and that goes direct by DocuSign to the supervisor and also to the employee. The payments manager can be the same person or a separate person from the supervisor, and the payments manager logs into the portal and confirms each month that the person is still there, which releases their funding. The staffing and support confirms to us the amount of staff that you have there, so we can gauge how many people it would be suitable. And the job search at the next section confirms what sort of activities that you'd be able to give the person, such as looking at job sites, access to phone, stamps, looking at their CV, and below that, the community benefit, which is very important to ourselves as it is to you, as we know. So if you put in there, think along the lines of the benefit that the role would give to your community, as opposed to the benefit to the person who gets the job. And also the sustainable towards employment, that refers to the things that you can provide that will help progress the person into employment beyond their CGS. And just below that, confirming that the vacancy will be additional. And there's a wee tick box at the bottom there, submit this job description to assessment. When you tick that and save it, that sends it through to ourselves so we can then assess it. A wee tip there, if you don't tick that box and save it, it saves it as a draft. And you can then amend things before you put it through, but you can also clone that job if you have in mind several positions of the same job type, and it saves you doing several times. It just clones exactly what you've done the first time, and then you can tick the tick box to put it through. And it's as simple as that.
Right. Try and get myself back live here again. Thank you, Brian. A couple of things I wanted to add to that. Brian is one of our account managers, and we have a small team of account managers who work with all of the employers. So each employer is given a dedicated account manager to support them throughout that process. So I know that certainly we're used to seeing things like the registration form and the job document there. And I know that when I looked at it there, thinking about somebody new, it kind of made me think, oh my goodness, that's a lot to take in. But as I said, our account managers and the team are here to support. We're always here to support. And in terms of when we're looking at those documents, if we've ever got any queries or questions about the information that's been provided, we will always come back to you and ask you questions just to clarify things as well. Okay, the other thing that I just wanted to very quickly mention as well was in terms of this coming year, as I said earlier, we're looking to create another 560 jobs over this coming year. And I know Brian had mentioned in his details about the contract lengths being for a year. Now, with the changes that are coming up with regards to No One Left Behind and the transition of the CGS funding into No One Left Behind, we are looking to try and ensure that there's a smooth transfer there. So one of the things that will happen over this year is that the funding in terms of the current programme will complete in terms of an end date of the 31st of March 2022 for the CGS contract. But we're going to be working with local authorities and through the Young Persons Guarantee and supporting the employer and the young person to move on with that as well. But in terms of the contract lengths, yes, we could very well have 52-week contract lengths because we are looking to try and move things and get things started from April. But we will also look at pro rata contract lengths as well. So we will move from 52 weeks slowly down towards a minimum contract length of 26 weeks as well. And that would be last contract starting at the end of September. Okay, but as I said, I'll provide some contact details for us in the chat so that if anybody's got any questions, they can always get back in touch with us. Okay, so quickly moving on, because I know that we're kind of short on time here. We're now going to give you a second poll, and hopefully one of my colleagues will bring that up. So it's a multiple choice. So as you can see, the question is, what is it that attracts you to CGS? So you can, obviously, it just might be one thing, but it might be several out of that. Oh, crikey, I'm already seeing lots of things coming up. The other, well, it's just actually said it. I was thinking about that myself. If there is anything else, please do add it in the chat as well, to let us know what else that is, draws you to the programme as well. Okay, so there's a lot of movement there, but it is very obvious from the very outset that offering a young person an opportunity and a job opportunity is very much the case in everybody's front of everybody's mind. So with the poll stopping there, 94%. So obviously it's doing what it's saying on the tin, and then there's more or less an equal split between the other options in terms of growing your organisation, accessing the funding, and developing partnerships. So this is all fantastic, and we will have a look to see what the others are saying as well. So thank you very much for that. Now we're going to move on to the second video. And what we're going to do is play this, and this I think Lorna had mentioned. This is from Brendan, who was funded as an employee, a CGS employee with the Eyemouth Harbour Trust, where he worked as a harbour operations assistant in 2015. And as Lorna said, Brendan has very kindly agreed to join us here today and to answer any questions that you may have, although please don't take it hard on him or provide him with any difficult questions. Okay, Francis.
Hi, my name is Brennan Bates. I work for a company called Eyemouth Harbour Trust, based in the southeast side of Scotland. Before being taken on by Eyemouth Harbour, I was unemployed for roughly 6-7 months, claiming job seekers allowance. At the time, the town wasn't booming with work, and finding work close by was rather difficult, and you had to travel. There was one day I was down at the job centre, and they got and told me to apply for this job. Applied for the job, sent in my CV, and then I think had an interview 2 weeks later, and on the same day I found out I had the job. It started a month later. First year with Eyemouth Harbour Trust was eye-opening. It was great fun working outside, getting to know people, finding out what the job was all about, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. So after my first year, I was offered a permanent job with Eyemouth Harbour, and it was a great opportunity. Now, say the Community Jobs Scotland actually allowed me to see where I'd like to progress my career. So since the funded position, I've been able to work my way up to the Deputy Harbour Master's position, along with volunteering for the RNLI. So if it wasn't for Community Jobs Scotland and being able to have that opportunity with them, I would be where I'm at today.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Brendan, for sharing that with us, and to my colleagues for that information about CGS. There's been a few questions coming in. I'm conscious we've got 3 minutes left. I think most of the questions are being answered by colleagues behind the scenes. So if you click on the answered part, you will be able to see the answers that have been given when they've been given in writing rather than live, as it were. So I'm just going to leave one final opportunity for anyone who wants to ask a question now of any of the people that we've seen speaking. If you pop something in the Q&A, other than things that have been answered, that's fine. So I'm going to close then with a final poll, and there it is, quick as a flash, don't need to tell you what it is. If you'd like to answer that question while you're doing that, I would really like to say thank you very much to everybody who's attended. That's been a really active chat, a really active question and answer session, and lots of people interested. So that's fabulous, and it's great to hear all your good stories, and also to see that there's a lot of stuff going on between Scottish Government, UK Government, our sector, councils. There's lots of people doing stuff around Young Persons Guarantee, but more importantly around getting young people into work and keeping them there. So I really appreciate that. It's a kind of a collective effort, and that we're all very focused on that. Let's see what the answer was. Good, lots of interest in both CGS and the wider Young Persons Guarantee. Fantastic, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Glad to see that you've all engaged with it and stuck with us. The numbers have stayed up. That's always a good sign. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll engage with you in the future on whatever shape or form it might be. We have lots more webinars coming up, but we also have lots of work going on in SCVO that would be very happy to hear from you. And Gavin and his colleagues in Scottish Government working on the Young Persons Guarantee, equally very keen to engage with the sector. And you've got all the details for David at SUS as well if you want to get in touch with them. So thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.